Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fly to the Next podcast with me, Dean, Denise, and Holly. Today, we're going to talk mostly about the Women's World Cup, what we've learned, what we've enjoyed about it, and some of the lessons that maybe we could take away, Australia and New Zealand football could take away, and maybe even FIFA. So, who wants to lead off? Holly.
Me. We had the idea to talk about our favourite 2 or 3 moments of the World Cup, and I think all three of us will have this moment for me, and that was the moment that Hannah Wilkinson scored that incredible team goal. I wasn't in the stadium; I was watching it in a crowd of people, and it was just incredible. So that was definitely one of my highlights, despite not having been there. My other highlights were probably actually just generally being part of those sold-out Stadium Australia crowds, all 5 of them, including the final. So that's the other moment for me, just so many people. Denise?
Yeah, wasn't that Wilkinson goal just universal? You ask people who are not even New Zealanders, who had like teams in it, and what their favorite moment was, and they will mention that Wilkie goal. I mean, that'll go down in history, as like the one of the top moments of this World Cup. It really pulls on a lot of heartstrings, for a lot of reasons, because you saw the Ferns playing together, like a team that really pulled for each other and covered for each other, and it's that underdog mentality and that home team mentality. I think that was a really powerful moment. I like some of the smaller moments. I mean, not smaller, like some of these moments. When you're in the stadium, you always get the Indigenous welcome.
Yes.
And for me, that was a beautiful moment to show the rest of the world that, our Indigenous people matter. So I'm going to put that as a highlight. And then, of course, Holly's going to cringe at this, Germany losing, like Germany going out, like, I will say that was one of my favorite moments, just because, Germany out, Morocco in, these things that were really unexpected. And you can put that in the unexpected bucket of things that you loved about this World Cup. And so it's a big bucket. That was just one ingredient in that bucket, but that's where I'm going with that. How about you, Dean?
I've got being in Wellington for the first 25 minutes of the New Zealand versus the Philippines match. That was terrific. Just the whole build-up, being back in New Zealand, walking around. Holly and I did a lap of the stadium because we got there sort of relatively early, and just sort of the people that we'd bump into that we hadn't seen for ages, and things like that. And then being in the crowd, that was sort of fantastic as well. So right up until the moment the Philippines scored, it was that was wonderful. Being at the final, clearly another one. Going home with a little thing of gold glitter that I've got sitting on my desk over there, just to remind me I was at that final. And probably being at the Matildas versus Ireland game, having watched New Zealand won on the Uber on the way to the stadium, and just going into the Australia game with this amazing euphoria, and then watching Australia sort of win by 1-0 as well. Those, 3, but I mean, we talk probably 300 is probably a number that we could probably sort of talk about for a number of highlights, I reckon. Those are my top 3.
For me, it's sort of one of the, it'll be a life highlight to hopefully I attend future World Cups, but that it was here, that I got to go to 14 games, including, games with 75,000 people. That's a special memory for the rest of my life. And I think for you guys, it's probably similar.
Holly, you've been in sort of world record crowds at both ends of the spectrum now, thanks to the Phoenix and thanks to the Women's World Cup.
True. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah.
Makes you probably unique in the world of football, that you've been at probably sort of like one of the lowest attended football matches in history, and one of the biggest.
Ouch. Well, it's part of the journey. You see the whole range of what could happen, what couldn't happen. I think one of the big lessons we found out is that New Zealand will show up for football. I mean, in Australia, it was bonkers, but one of the major things was, we were like, will they come out? Will these stadiums be empty? These stadiums were not empty. And that to me was one of the biggest surprises, and really heartwarming things about this World Cup. Because I was in France in 2019 and there were some empty stadiums. Ferns played to empty stadiums often. I didn't follow the Ferns at the time, but I could hear some people grumbling about it. And that did not happen. And I was really, really proud of this country.
Yeah, no, I get a little goosebumps thinking of it myself. I think sensible ticket pricing, I think, helped as well. The free transport in the major cities to get to and from the games. But yeah, no, the fact that New Zealand came out to watch football, which is kind of like looked over or perhaps even looked down on a little bit, was amazing. And yeah, thank you, New Zealand and Australia, for that.
Yeah. I mean, what a year for women's sports in New Zealand, from the tail end of the Rugby World Cup. There was also the Cricket World Cup, but that wasn't well attended because of COVID. But the Rugby World Cup, some of the two of the biggest events over the last year and a half were women's sporting events at Eden Park.
Yeah. How good.
I think we've been lucky. That difference, I think, between 2019 and 2023, where women's sport has been on the ascendancy. And so you'll get 75,000 people show up, and you could have sold more tickets if it was a bigger stadium. So I think we're fortunate to be just as that wave has started to crest. I mean, not that it's going to come crashing down, I hope not, but like we've got to that rise in momentum, and that we've experienced that here in Australia and New Zealand is incredibly special. I think the thing for me though is we've had all this momentum in Australia and New Zealand. And what we need to do, and this is the challenging bit, is to take that attention and get it to continue into the domestic levels, into the clubs, into grassroots level, into the A-leagues. That's the big challenge right now.
Yep. With the timing for local domestic competitions wasn't that great. It was great for attending because a lot of them had finished or were finishing. But with the start of the dub now coming up, yes, we've got that sort of cooling off period, if you will, but the dub's just around the corner. So yeah, we have to sort of maximize that, get as many eyes on it. I think we're going to have a lot more eyes on the dub this season. So it's up to I guess the broadcaster to make it accessible, and even the teams to make it more entertaining. Well, not more entertaining, make it entertaining.
It's hard with in some ways Wellington has a bit of trying to sell it to people who don't have easy access to Wellington might be a little bit harder. In New Zealand, I find it's a little bit easier trying to sell people on it, like being here in Sydney, because if they don't have a team, they've got two teams to pick from. That's really easy. It's and I think word of mouth is going to be, or just encouraging your friends, hey, you watch this, come and give an A-League women's game a go. But there are gaps sort of in the market across the country that we hopefully can find a way to pull those people, and even if they're just watching on TV.
I've seen a number of posts on various Facebook groups of people saying exactly that. Look, I've just watched the World Cup. Who do I now support? Which is my team? Can someone suggest a team for me to support? And that's great.
I think the only thing I would say that is frustrating is that many of the football ferns you saw literally on the field, not many of them are the ones at the Phoenix right now. Obviously there's some great players, and we know like all the ones that were, subs and who didn't make it into the matches, and that were great people, even just the Kate Taylors who tagged along with the team, Grace Wisniewski, just these are players. Michaela Foster was injured. So that's the only thing they have to fight against. It's not like they have the whole football ferns, sort of pouring into the league. And that is always a problem. And I'm really hoping these last two signings that the Knicks will have at least one fern, but I don't know if it's going that way. But there are some emerging ferns that you can continue to watch.
Yeah. Millie Clegg now at Western Sydney Wanderers. We've got Wilco and Stoddy at Melbourne City. So there's still players to be watched and senior players to be watched, which is good. It's just waiting for them. They're not going to be at Wellington every second week.
Right. Yeah, they're floating around to cheer for.
Yeah.
Grace Jolly, she's at Perth now. Yep.
So it's kind of the cost of success. We're not a destination league, and so they do well on the world stage, and then you lose them. Claire Hunt is going to PSG, for example. So that's the catch. They do well and they leave. But
Claudia Bunge and Malia Steinmetz over in Scandinavia now, where last season it was Western Sydney and Melbourne Victory. So shop window, great for them.
Yeah, they're over in Denmark.
Yeah, gonna miss them.
I mean, since we're on it, let's just briefly go into that. The Ferns roster. We have Katie Bowen. She's at Inter Milan. I think that's a great move for her.
Mm-hmm.
She needs playing time, and she needs she just needs playing time in an interesting league that challenges her. CJ Bott still at Leicester City. Who else? Olivia Chance. She's unattached right now.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I know that we've signed some ferns, and I know that there have been offers I had heard that there was an offer for a fern that had to decide yesterday, and I've not heard what the response was for that. But it's like I said, it's hard to keep them if they've done really well, and hard to lure them back if they've still got their careers are in an upward trajectory. Like, I don't mind if we become a retirement place if the players are good enough, but it is a little bit of a pity that we can't keep as many. But that the A-League woman is about the same. In fact, they're probably worse. The only big name that's staying is Courtney Vine.
Yeah.
UFC. So
we've got the future, I think, of New Zealand football still with the Phoenix. And that's you got your Kates, your Briannas, etc., etc. But then you've got your Alyssa Winhams and the players like that as well. Mickey Robertsons and Mickey Foster also.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the only tragedy of all these athletes going to Europe is figuring out how to watch them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I know our Facebook page, tries to put it all together. We have a couple at London City Lionesses, Grace Neville, Paige Satchel. Yeah, it's just figuring out where they are. We have a couple in Scotland, or at least Vic Essens over in Scotland. So yeah, they're hard to find. They've gone their own way.
Yeah.
So that's one lesson learned. It's like, how do you keep watching these heroes now that you know them? How do you keep watching them? And that has always been a problem with women's sports. And I think there are various contributors who on the Facebook group who will throw it out there. Hey, this person's playing, or this is the result. And I think that's great.
it's just that getting those casual fans through. So you said that was a lesson learned is trying to, if you televise it, if you promote it, then people will come and people will watch. What other lessons do you think we can take away broadly from the tournament?
You got to make it easy access. I mean, sometimes when we're trying to get tickets for the World Cup, it was a nightmare. Sometimes it was very easy, but TV, you want a one click or just one click to be able to view, or one click to be able to get your ticket, or something very, very simple, I think.
There was that awful controversy, which actually happened last time in 2019, where Category 1 tickets, people who were, the super fans that were clicking on the button right as the tickets went on sale, got the worst tickets. And that was very, very frustrating. So one of the lessons for FIFA was, for me, don't do that. Because these people care about this probably the most and will promote it the most.
Yep. I got great fan experience, safe feeling stadiums, shit tickets for the early getting, people getting in early. And that's the wrong people to be punishing. And I think we all talked about that and strongly agree. I think that, your tickets, Denise, when did you get the tickets for the final? And we ended up sitting 3 rows from the back, essentially, and you needed an oxygen mask to get up there.
Yeah, and I got them within the first 10 minutes of them going on sale, Yeah. So very frustrating. I ended up getting
Fill up your stadium.
I ended up getting secondhand scalp tickets for the final because I was like, this matters too much to me. But that's exactly what you're not supposed to do. And yeah, it was frustrating. Let's go on to some positive lessons learned. How about the expansion to 32 teams?
So I find when you expand the teams, often the fear is that you'll get a lot of lower ranked, lower quality teams and you'll have thrashings and it won't be fun. And perhaps in the past, we've seen a bit more of that, but not this time. Every single team played like crazy. And I think there was like a 7-0 or 8-0 game, and that was it. They were all so much closer. So the fact that, it's not just like the European teams that are catching up. It's also these lower teams that are Morocco, like they had a player that was the first to ever wear a hijab at a World Cup, and they got through to the knockout rounds. So the expansion worked really well.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone
I agree. I don't think it's ever been, maybe in the past, it's like, so teams have caught up, right? They're like, have you caught up to the America? They're catching up, no, they're there. And it's not ever been a talent issue. It's always been a federation issue. Yeah, some federations are just jerks to their female athletes.
Exactly. Pay your players, for flip's sake.
Canada not paying their players. Jamaica, needing a GoFundMe to get to the World Cup.
Nigeria, the same.
Zambia with these coaches that were sleeping with, at least accused of sleeping with, like players, these, even the winner, Spain, they did it in spite of their federation. Like,
yeah.
We all knew as football fans that, it's been a mess in Spain, and all these players sat down, and there was, back in the spring, the B team beat USA. So we knew they were good. But all these federations have emerged often in spite of, or all these teams in spite of their federations. Colombia, fantastic. Just Haiti. These federations have not been traditionally good to their players. And even a country like Brazil, they've had a real mixed history with their federation. So this was supposed to be their first sort of less cumbersome drive to the World Cup. And yeah, we can talk about them later. But the point is, I think the 32 teams was brilliant.
Yep, fully agree.
And the tournament broke even for the first time. And that was despite the extra prize money, despite the extra teams. I think I'm assuming that's a break even for FIFA rather than break even for anybody else. But, that broadcasters should be paying more next time, right? So in theory, like next time, maybe it'll start making a profit, which would be incredible. And that's what happens when you invest.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, the broadcast deals have been bundled with the men. And so they haven't been able to tweeze out how much did the women make, how much, like it's been really kind of a confusing equation. So it's nice that it was separate and they can start to understand the economics around that. What else you got around lessons learned?
I got a personal lesson learned, and there's no such thing as a shoo-in, a guaranteed victory. That there's no lock-in. I mean, I went to Wellington thinking if we're ever going to win one game of football, it's going to be this. Did we show? So, but again, I suppose there's a lot of countries like Germany, like the USA, who think, yeah, we'll make it through easy. So it was just the upsets were many, and they were sort of like magnificent, except if you're not, well, if you're not supporting that particular team.
Yes.
So many good games for neutrals, like
Yes.
the Panama France I was there. It was incredible. 9 goals and 3. I mean, how many of it's just being there, like going to those neutral games. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And yeah, there's no guaranteed victory.
Yeah.
So all of the US have learned what a millimeter is, Denise.
You speak to Alyssa Nair. She guarantees she saved that ball. So
well, I was thinking Donald Trump still thinks he won the 2020 election. So maybe there's something in the water out there where there's a clear result and you just blank denying that that's the case. But that's actually another moment. That was another one of those moments.
Yeah.
Where it was just like you might have hated it if you were an American fan, but otherwise so dramatic.
Yeah, I think most Americans, I mean, there's perspective on it because, the team has been about, the march for themselves for equality, but, it's one of the few teams that really has a global perspective and fans with a global perspective. I mean, obviously you want your team to win, but you are happy to see the game move forward. And I think we really saw the game move forward. I would say one of the lessons learned is that these tournaments matter to the smaller federations the most. And, no one wants the World Cup every 2 years, but to have tournaments that matter every couple years. Europe has the Euros, but to have something that really matters in 2 years to keep these federations active, because Argentina traditionally has like just closed shop, or, other teams will just close up shop between the World Cups and not be active on these FIFA breaks. So just to have a tool for, all the other teams other than these 32, I think is a big lesson.
That's what our chat with Sarah Gregorius brought up is that lifting now that even more lower tier up to the point where they can start potentially qualifying for World Cups, because FIFPro did that research and realized that there was less than 40 teams that potentially ever qualify. So there's just, it's like the whole, everything has to lift. So hopefully at least the success of these small countries at the World Cup, or relative success, means that, associations will think, well, maybe we can do that. And then that will lift everybody.
I mean, let's hope, but I don't, the cynic in me needs like, the equivalent of, that country, Uruguay to be successful, for Uruguay to put money in their women's team. So, there's so much of, how about this statement? There's so much of women's football that's bound up in some sort of social change. How has that been on view in this World Cup?
Well, I mean, you look at the social change that's coming out of Spain. They're having their Me Too moment, and I mean, it's horrible that that had to happen to Hermoso for that to actually happen. But that's a perfect example of a social movement that's been triggered through women's sport.
100%. I mean,
And I think the quality of the actual football on display, I think a lot of I've sort of experienced sort of skepticism about women's football in the past, but when you sort of watch the quality and sitting at that World Cup final, just right up in the gods there, looking down and watching Spain and their passing, their ball retention, and the skills on display, it was like, it's just it was fantastic. So if there was any sort of doubts about the credibility of women's soccer, I like to think that has been removed, and the quality of the play on display has proven that it's worth watching and worth going to matches.
yeah, and these things have seeped in because so many people watch the tournament. They've seeped into everyday life, even here. Like I had my builder, contractor guy come in the house, and he said, it was the best tournament he's ever seen in his life. And then he started talking about Rubiales. We had this discussion where I was like, that guy was picking up and hugging everyone, kind of against their will. And they don't like that guy. And he's grabbing them all. And we thought he was like a weird member of the royal family. We didn't realize he was their boss, just to have this creepy thing. And to have those kind of discussions, that, the problem with the Spanish Federation wasn't in this dark little box that we don't understand. Some of that has been exploded, and you see these men try and hold on to their ridiculous power, and the antics of them, instead of just humbly going, yeah, I screwed up, I should just quietly go for now, fight on with this, first of all, they put out like a press release she didn't even like agree to. They put words in her mouth, so it was like a phony thing to protect this guy. And then Rubiales has this like press conference where everyone thinks he's going to resign and he doesn't, and like it just made all this masculinity around women's football kind of ridiculous. But it was important to see, like, it's important to see that journey, and the coach that no one liked, who like grabbed the woman's breast, but I don't even know. I would say there was probably 100 moments for each of these guys that we haven't seen. That's the reasons, and to see people not understand that, that this is a moment that matters in women's football. But people are engaged with it. It's good. I mean, I like that it came out, and I hate that it happened to these women, but I do like that it was so on display that now you have a moment to talk about and to understand the game of women's football, why you need, allies, why you need, you know, men who don't do that, and why you need women in coaching, and why you need balance, and you need gender balance on boards and this and that, because you just don't want to see that crap.
I think also that it's spawned conversations globally as well. I mean, the fact that at the end, a couple of Mondays ago, our walking football at 8:30 sort of finished, and a group of men and women, 50 plus, most of us, had a conversation that went until the council actually switched the lights out, and we're still talking about it. Those conversations like that in a little town in Australia, replicated all around the world, I like to think, and a lot more respect and openness and stuff is being brought to light, I think.
It's just a shame that their win has been, tarnished by that. I mean, and Hermoso, that this whole scandal will follow her around for the rest of her life. like if you Google Jenny Hermoso, like after her Wikipedia page, it's all the Ruby Alice thing, and I mean that will quieten down a bit, but realistically, the rest of her life, like that's what people are going to think of when they think of her. So I'm I'm so sad for those players that incredible achievement has been upstaged
Yeah.
by the need to have to deal with this awful man and set of men and just institutions that are all complicit.
Yeah, and I think we don't have to stick on this topic for very long either. I mean, and I think for me, Jenny Hermoso will always, like, I knew her before this. And I was there and I saw it happen to the whole team. Maybe not the plan on the lips, but I saw the disrespect, the weird lifting of every player, the kind of the grody-ness of it. So it's something that the team did experience, and I will always see it more as a team thing than just her. And the media likes to romantic her kind of thing, but I really think it was a disrespect to a larger group of people that includes all the people who sat at home and not played in their nation's World Cup. I mean, wow. Can you imagine not doing that and seeing your teammates win? I feel for these people. Speaking of these athletes, name me 2 or 3 of your favorite athletes of the tournament. I will start because I'm just popping this on you. Linda how do you say it? Casedo?
Yep, that would be mine.
Of Colombia. So she was a cancer survivor. Like, she had cancer, ovarian cancer at 15. And she's now what, like 19 or something like this? And she was on fire. Now, she does play for a quality team in Europe. So she's not like a name that, really came out of the blue. But she was phenomenal for Colombia. She looked great in that kit and she just killed it. I mean, she was so good, her skills on the ball. My other is Thembi Kgatlana. So I've been following her career. She's out of South Africa. She's the one with like the pride on the side of her head, and she was, for me, really fun to watch. I couldn't keep my eyes off of her. She now plays for Racing Louisville. She used to play for the Houston Dash. She was just a lot of fun, and then of course Japan's Miyazawa. You know, I went to Zambia as a Japan, and that Japan team was just on fire and just flew past uh, Zambia, and just watching those people work and watching her score was just a treat. How about you guys?
Mine, you've already mentioned Linda. For different reasons, Alex Chidiac from Australia, because I'm a huge supporter of her. She probably got about 8 minutes in total game time, which is very frustrating for her and very frustrating for her fan club. But just see her actually get on the field and be in the same stadium as her. And same for Claudia Bunge. Really, she's my favourite New Zealand player. And she got some game time, which is good to see. But we dodged that success in Wellington, and we just didn't make it through the next round. But yeah, we were there. There was 5 of us up in the crowd. I think 5 or 6, all of our Claudia Bunge shirts on, all supporting her and her family. And so, yeah, so it's not the most successful player or anything like that. But those are the sort of like 3 that are stuck in my mind for those reasons.
I think it's so hard to choose. It really is. I honestly, I liked Alex Pop's tournament, even though Germany did not do well. Alex Pop was someone who just gave it all for all 3 of their matches when others didn't seem to. It turned up to play. She's incredible. I like Marta Cox as well. And actually, even for, I do not normally like this player because I think she's a bit of a diver, but Caitlin Ford, I think, had a great tournament for Australia.
Yeah, I think she's a real household name now in Australia. Like, I mean, she was known before, right? She was one of their best players. Like, if you're a football fan, you know Caitlin Ford, you know all the places she's played at. But I loved walking in Sydney, going to the Nike store and watching just all the people putting the names on the we call them jerseys in America, on the kits, slicks, whatever you call them, and just the excitement over the individual players. And it was so beautiful to watch. I mean, it was mostly obviously Australia, but even you could take your kit and get it customized with your favorite player, and it was just really neat.
Actually, I think that's a lessons learned, making kits available. I think, that especially came across in terms of the goalkeeper kits, and Mary Earps was very clear in her being very unhappy with the fact that her goalkeeper kit wasn't available. I think that's hopefully these companies realize actually they could sell quite a lot of these. They could be making quite a lot of money. I think the most disrespectful of all of the kit suppliers was Adidas, what they did with Germany. So Germany, the men's and women's had the same home kit. The men have won 4, so they've got 4 stars. The women have won 2, so they've got 2 stars. And you could not buy a 2-star home kit. You could buy the away kit. I got one of those. It had 2 stars. Beautiful, beautiful kit. They did not, even in the official FIFA store at the match, the online store, the German Football Association store, Adidas store, none of it. You could only get the men's version, and that made me ridiculously angry. So that's a lesson learned. You can make money. People are willing to spend money on these things.
Yeah, a lot of money. It's funny. I actually did meet well, it's kind of a weird moment. I met the CEO of Adidas at the tournament. No, it was actually not at the tournament. I was walking around the rocks, that area of Sydney. And I kind of out of the corner of my eye, I see some people playing soccer or football. And I walk up, and it's like a futsal kind of outdoor area. And then there's like Carly Lloyd and Formiga and the Japanese player Maya, and then like the head of FIFA. What's his name again? Like all these like people, and it was like, I walked up the stairs, and there's like 2 or 3 people just kind of watching like this pickup match, and yeah, it was just really weird. It was very surreal to like stumble across a pickup match with all these like famous people. And this guy was leaving the match, after I don't know about 30 minutes of me watching him, and he he takes off his shoes, and he looks at me, and I'm all decked out in like Nike street clothes, and he goes, "You're wearing the wrong clothes." And I'm like, "Who the hell are you?" To tell me like I'm wearing the wrong sneakers and stuff. And then he goes, "Here, have these." And he gives me these pair of Adidas, these like cleats. And I'm like, these are really way too big for me, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And then he goes, "And you can have these." And he takes his cleats off of his feet and gives me a pair of sweaty cleats. And I was just like, what am I gonna do with these? I mean, obviously I ended up giving them away to people, but I look them up online. They were like $395 each.
Wow.
It's just kind of really interesting, the kind of they showed up, at least they showed up, and they had some fun. But that was one of the more bizarre moments of the tournament for me.
Have we got time to talk about maybe in wrapping up our best 1 or 2 goals of the tournament?
Sure.
Okay, so I think that Marta Cox was robbed of goal of the tournament. That Casado goal, it was a really nice goal. It was not goal of the tournament. The Marta Cox goal was absolutely incredible. And then for me, the Sam Kerr goal against Denmark. No, sorry, England. Sorry, that was incredible. Could only have been topped off with a backflip, but when you're injured, that's not a smart thing to do. And again, that Wilkie goal, incredible. I lost my voice like in the pub when I cheered for that. Great.
Denise?
We're actually going to agree, Holly. The Wilkie goal, I mean, I was in the stadium right in the middle, and we just flipped out. I mean, it was incredible. We danced, we screamed. I felt like this stress just released from my body. Like one of the best moments of the year for me. Don't see that for sure. And then Sam Kerr goal was just brilliant. It's like she just, man, I was at behind that goal. So I could see it all sort of form from the distance, and you could see it come off her head and just float into the goal, or not her head, her foot.
Yep.
And it was just beautiful. And the stadium went nuts. It was great.
Just the whole sequence of being in the crowd, and she gets the ball and people just start to get up, and then she's sort of halfway to the goal and people are fully standing up, and then she scores and everybody's just jumping and it's just pandemonium, and it was just like, yeah, how lucky were we there to be there to witness that live. That was that for me. Unfortunately, I got to see the Wilkie goal on a tiny screen in the back of a taxi, but watching that Casado goal, I was watching it on a screen, and it was just, I was just stunned. I just sort of sat back in my seat and, did that go in? What a goal. So yeah, I think we're all agreed. I think those are the top three. Well, except for what's her name, Cox, of course.
All right, Ferns have some friendlies coming up against Chile, who did not make it to the World Cup this time. They've got a very good goalkeeper in Christiana Endler. That's Chile, right? Yeah. But otherwise, I don't know too much about them. I'm hoping it's an evenish kind of, I'm assuming there's 2 games, friendly series.
There's 2, yeah.
So we'll do a review of those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
hopefully with Helena.
Endler's impossible to get through. I mean, she's really good. I've seen Chile play live. I went to Chile versus USA, and Endler played out of her mind. It was before she was famous, put it like that, before she went to PSG and then Lyon, I think she's at now, right? So the Ferns are going to have to play very well to get one past her. It's going to be a good match.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that we get the younger players some more game experience. They're taking some good young ones across, so I'm hoping. So we've got Brianne Edwards from the Knicks going over as well. Nailey's out. So hopefully at least she's in for some game time and some good experience.
Yeah, that'll be great. So yeah, let's do a review of that. And of course, we have coming up the next season, tons to talk about there, but we'll leave that for another podcast. So Holly, Dean, thank you for jumping on. It's, reminiscing about the World Cup, now that everything's died down, we still have these incredible memories.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me along.
Well, you're part of the furniture now, Dean. All right. On that note,
bye everyone.
Part of the furniture. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.